Now it's time to calibrate your system. The first step in calibration is to turn on the Dragon Link transmitter in calibration mode. So what you do is you hold down the button on the Dragon Link transmitter and you turn on the power. So you see it'll flash a couple times and then it will turn green. Continue to hold down the binding button. It turns yellow now, and continue to hold down the binding button. And now it turns red. When the LED turns red, you let go of the binding button and you see it flashing red and green. This is the calibration mode. Leave it running in this mode, and now we go on to the receiver. Okay, now that you have the transmitter running in calibration mode, the next step is to put the receiver into calibration mode. Transmitter, you will need to have the LED flashing green to red, which means it's in calibration mode. Leave that running. Then you're going to get the receiver and a power source for the receiver. The best thing you can use is a battery, just because it works every time. You know you're getting the correct voltage, but you can use a BEC for this if you like. Take the receiver and put the included jumper across the channel pins of channels 5 and 6. You see the jumper there is jumped to the signal pins of channels 5 and 6 on the receiver. Then you're going to turn it over and you're going to plug in the battery to the receiver. Now when you plug it in, ground is on the bottom, so the black wire should be on the bottom pin. You can plug it to any of the channels, it doesn't matter. The battery can plug into any of the channels 1 through 12. And when you plug it in, you will see the 3 LEDs light up. This means the receiver is in calibration mode. If you do not see these 3 LEDs, you are not in calibration mode and you need to figure out what the problem is. So you see green, blue, and red. The receiver is now calibrating, so set it on the desk. Okay, once the receiver's in calibration mode, move the transmitter with its antenna about 3 feet away from the receiver. No antenna on the receiver, just as you see here. And let it run for about 15 minutes. You can go have a coffee, do whatever. The time is not super important if you leave. Okay, now the receiver has been calibrating for 15 minutes, and now that 15 minutes are over, we're going to stop the calibration process. So you see we still have 3 lights. Right now it's calibrating. We're going to unplug the battery from the receiver, and we're going to remove the jumper to take it out of calibration mode. So we just put that jumper away somewhere. Calibration only needs to be done like once a year. So save the jumper somewhere, but you do not have to do this often. Just once a year will be more than enough. So the next step is binding the receiver to your... Okay, now to bind the receiver to the transmitter. This tells the receiver that it will only listen to your transmitter. So this is a necessary step and it will not work without this. So what you do is you go to your transmitter and you turn it on in the binding mode. So what you're going to do is hold the button down, turn the switch on, and keep holding the button till the LED turns yellow. Right now it's green. You're going to keep holding it down. There's yellow. You let go of it and it's flashing yellow. So this is binding mode. If you do not have a flashing yellow LED like that, you're not in binding mode and you need to start over. Okay, so once you get that, you can go to the next step, which is simply plug in power to the receiver. And that gives you 2 LEDs. You're going to see the green status LED is lit and the red power LED is lit. You see the power plug has the black on the bottom. This is binding mode. That green LED tells me it's getting a successful bind. It only takes like 5 seconds, so it's done. You can now unplug the receiver. and you can turn off the RC transmitter. Now your system is successfully bound, and it should work the next step. Now the easiest and best way to test a Dragon Link is to do it outside of the airplane. And why is that? Because an FPV plane has a lot of wiring, and there's a lot of mistakes that can be made in the plane, a lot of things that can go wrong. And you plug it all into the plane and it doesn't work, and you're going to think, wow, my Dragon Link doesn't work. When in reality it may be just a crossed wire in the plane or anything. So that we know that it's working.
What do you want, Kayla? What do you want?
Kayla agrees. She thinks we should test it outside the plane, no? Yes? Outside? So what we're going to do, we're going to test it to make sure it works. In that way, when we put it in the plane, if something goes wrong, then we know to look in the plane instead of the system. So what we're going to do, we got the battery, which is a 4.8 volt standard airborne NiCad battery. The receiver will take from 4.8 to 9 volts. I recommend no more than 6 volts because servos and a lot of other equipment will start to burn out at anything over 6 volts. Although the Dragon Link receiver is protected far beyond that, the rest of your equipment won't be. So we got the servo, the transmitter, the battery. We're going to turn on the RC transmitter and make sure we get the green LED, which we do. Solid green LED means the transmitter's working. So we can go to the next step, which is to power up the receiver. We're going to plug the battery into the receiver, black negative wire on the bottom, and we look at the lights. We got the red power light, which means the receiver has power, and we have the blue link light, which means the Dragon Link receiver is receiving a perfect link. There's no blinking, it's getting a constant radio signal. And there's a servo. We've put it on the throttle channel so we can test the throttle and make sure it responds smoothly and correctly. So go ahead and move the throttle, and you see the servo move with the stick. It's smooth. It responds perfectly. A little faster. Okay, you see how the servo responds smoothly and perfectly with the throttle stick. So that means the system is hooked up properly and we know it's working. Okay, now we're going to show how to set the failsafe on the Dragon Link, which is very easy to do. You simply turn on the system in the normal mode. Make sure you get a green LED, means it's working. And then we're going to plug in the receiver. So with it, we get a normal link. And there it is, blue light, solid blue means normal link. Rose is going to test the throttle to see that it's working. Servo is moving normally, perfect. Okay, now we're going to go to minimum throttle, which it's at now. And to set the failsafe, you simply push the bind button until the LED turns red. There it is, red, and you let it go. And now the failsafe is set on every channel to wherever the stick was when she pushed that button. So we're going to do it one more time. Push the button. LED turns red, you let it go. Failsafes are now set. So she had the system at minimum throttle when she pushed the button. Now we're going to go to maximum throttle. See the servo there? And we're going to turn off the transmitter to test the failsafe. Okay, transmitter's off, and you see throttle went to minimum position. So that means the failsafe worked. Throttle on the failsafe on the throttle. The throttle position on the transmitter is at max throttle. She turned off the transmitter and the servo went to minimum throttle. She's going to turn the transmitter back on, and you will see the servo immediately go back to where its commanded position. Okay, you see transmitter on, servo's active again. Move the stick. Okay, that is how you set the failsafe. So next step will be to range test the system. We test the range in the micro power mode. What this does is it turns on the transmitter with just a few microwatts of output, just enough to make the system work 30 to 40 feet or 10 to 15 meters. If the system works about that far before you get to failsafe, you know it's operating at maximum range and everything's working. So what she's going to do is she's going to turn on the transmitter in micro power mode. You hold down the red bind button while turning it on, and when you get the green LED almost immediately, you let go of the red button and you will see a flashing green LED. If you do see flashing green, that is micro power mode. If you do not see that, you have not entered the mode and you need to try again. So once you get that, then you go and you power on the receiver. Okay, look at the LEDs on the receiver. We have a solid blue and a solid red. We're going to move the throttle and make sure the receiver responds. Servo response is good, so the system is up and operating. Now we're going to connect the antenna to the receiver. This test is done with the antenna on the receiver and on the transmitter. Now we're going to put the transmitter on a table vertical. We're going to put the transmitter on the table vertical so that we can range test it. Okay, here we are outside about 45 feet away from the transmitter, testing the failsafe. Right now we're getting a marginal signal. You can see the blue LED is flashing to indicate the signal's getting kind of weak. We're starting to lose some packets, and just as we move around a little bit, you're going to see the system go into failsafe. There it is. That's a failsafe. We move a little bit more, change the antenna orientation, and it gets the signal back. So this is about 45 feet away from the transmitter, which is still inside the house. So we're going to call this a good test. 45 feet, receiver antenna connected. The transmitter in micro power mode is perfect.